Writing Fiction 101, Basic Concepts. Hello everyone, Randy Carney here again with another session of Walking with Randy, where we talk about writing, speaking, coaching, marketing, and marriage. Tonight we're talking about writing again. Writing Fiction 101, Basic Concepts. If you go to college for a particular field, you will have various courses that will come together. Many times you will have undergraduate courses, and one or two of those might relate to your field. And then you will have about 30 credit hours of other courses that relate to your major. But 101 is usually a foundational course in whatever subject you're talking about. And it covers the basic concepts upon which all the other courses will rest. So we're talking about Writing Fiction 101. Now, we're not talking about a college class, but we are talking about basic concepts for writing fiction. First of all, you want to come up with compelling characters. Now, in another blog post, I went into this a little bit more detail. But I would just remind us that our main character would be someone that we would want to spend time with. But it is a good idea to also reveal that character's weaknesses and things that they might struggle with, and even some of the emotional things that might be involved in their journey. So create some compelling characters. And come up with villains. Sometimes we talk about the villains we love to hate. Sometimes you talk about the villains as being complex characters. Create compelling characters. And then decide on a plot. If you do some search on Google, you will find a list of plots. The basic stories that are written over and over again. And they will range anywhere from 6 basic plots, lots of times 7 is mentioned, all the way up to a list of 36. And I don't know, you might even find more, but these are what I found in my searches. Anywhere from 6 to 36 plots. Look those over and pick out one to be the major focus of what you're going to write about in your fiction story. Then I recommend that you have the end or the resolution of the conflict worked out in your head before you start writing. That way you won't write yourself into a corner of which you cannot get out. Sometimes that happens in writing whenever you're just going along and writing along and you don't have a goal in mind as to where you're going and to what the action is going to build up to and what the climax is going to be. Get that part figured out first. Maybe even rough it out a little bit and then go back to the beginning and work through the other details in your story. Another tip is to reveal things through dialogue. Now, you can have expositional paragraphs, and sometimes you have to do that in order to save time. But the more that you can reveal through pictorial material, actions, or dialogue between the characters, the better it will be, the more interesting your writing will be. So these are some of the basic concepts that we would talk about. And then overcome obstacles along the way. Now sometimes you will have a story where the character seems to be going down, 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 and then you start having the rising action. At least in the last half of it, it should be rising toward a more positive direction. But even in that, there should be ebb and flow. There should be ups and downs, even as the overall story progresses. Have some obstacles that need to be overcome. Have little failures and victories along the way. Then have, and you don't always have to do this, but you often can have two parallel stories going on at the same time. And you do not have any more characters. It can just be all the characters that would be involved in an eventful story. But if you will describe their emotions and their emotional changes and have an emotional story going on at the same time as the events in your story, that will be helpful. Then have some chapter goals. It'd be good for you to write out a synopsis of your book, which will tell what's going to happen, a paragraph or so, in each chapter. And then in my book, about how to write a book in 28 days or less, I show you some ways to flesh out those chapter plans even more detailed, to where you would come up with 9 to 15 items that you would cover in each chapter. And then some ways of handling those that would be a blueprint for your book. And as you wouldn't even have to start at the beginning of each chapter if you have this figured out in this way. Well, these are some foundational concepts for writing fiction. Have compelling characters, decide on a plot, have the end or the resolution to the problem firmly in mind before you write, reveal things through dialogue, overcome obstacles along the way. You may want to have two parallel stories, an emotional story and an eventful story going on at the same time. And then have some chapter goals, maybe how long you would want your chapters to be, and at least a basic idea of what would be in each chapter. Well, I hope this has been helpful to you. If you would like more tips on writing, go to randycarney.com. Carney is spelled with a C. That's the correct way to spell it. No, I'm just kidding. We have friends in this area that spell Carney with a K. And but anyway, randycarney.com. And also, if you would like to know more about fleshing out those chapters, go check out the book, How to Write a Book in 28 Days or Less Without Stressing Yourself to Death. Well, until next time, for Walking with Randy, I want you to remember, you can write a book.